The idea that you would find a better presidential debate recap video on the internet. The idea. In case you needed a new nickname for Joe Biden, I think we've got one tonight. Joe the Idea Biden. I don't know how many times we heard him say it. I wasn't running a count. I would imagine it was between a dozen and 20 times that he uttered the phrase, the idea. It was a lot. Guys, I think we just saw what will be the only presidential debate of 2024. I'm about to recap it for you, including some specific highlights. I'm going to give you my entire notes that I took for the debate. We'll get into some funny tweets that came from other people as well, including this one and others. If I were to put my recap in very short words in terms of the impact of what we saw tonight, let me read you the Facebook post that I sent out after the debate. I've never seen less debate about how a debate went. The Democrats know they can't steal this one away. It's done. That's the short takeaway, but we'll get into the specifics after we start with Kamala Harris's takeaway.
Obviously, you can't honestly say, can you say that you are not concerned at all having watched the president's performance tonight?
It was a slow start. That's obvious to everyone. I'm not going to debate that point.
That was Kamala Harris, not even pretending. From the party of people who pretend about gender, not even pretending tonight. That's how amazing this was to watch. Let me start with how my night started. My first note was, I started on volume 45. My TV has volume from 1 to 100. I started for obvious reasons on 45. Quickly realized that's not loud enough for hearing Biden. I thought that we were going to get a closer to the State of the Union Biden, much louder, angry, defiant, just trying to prove a point of fierceness behind his communication. It wasn't there tonight. I thought 45 volume would be enough. It wasn't. I wanted to hear Biden. I had to turn it up. I'm just going to read through several of the notes that I took for you guys. Early on, Biden messes up trillion and billion, and then billion and million. You know, he was using the word trillion or the number trillion when he meant billion. He was using the number billion when he meant millions of people. People aren't good enough at math to understand anyway. Whether or not it was a good, coherent point, people can't, even smart people, can't visualize or actually deeply understand the quantity of a billion. Humans weren't designed to consider things in quantities of billions. Even if he was explaining it well and using the correct mathematical quantity, I still think his points would have fallen flat right off the top. But definitely you're not going to communicate your message to the people when you're confusing the numbers trillion, billion. I'm sorry, and he kept correcting himself. That wasn't a good way to start. Props to CNN for cutting Biden off twice. Trump seems to be sharper on timed scripts and ending his answer just in time before they mute him. I thought he did a great job. I thought Trump did a very good job of being able to, in a debate moderated by CNN, still sort of debate his own terms, in terms of, nope, you're not going to mute me. You're not going to cut me off because I'm going to be so practiced and so sharp with my timed responses. And it felt a lot of times, I didn't have a clock. I wasn't clocking it myself. It felt like he was very good at nailing his answers at a minute 58, a minute 59. Or if he was done early, hey, I'll talk about something else for however many more seconds I know I have. I'm gonna fill the time. I didn't feel like Biden did that as well. Next point. Biden always looks like he's looking into the sun. Is he looking into the light? They say right before it's your time, you see a great brightness approaching you. The poor man, he looks like he's about done here, doesn't it? He's just always squinty, staring off into space, not blinking a lot. Just an odd look. Just very old looking, is how I would describe it. At the 23-minute mark, I had the first feeling that Biden might be doing poorly enough they don't run him. Let me show a couple clips, a couple highlight or lowlights, I guess, from Joe Biden's perspective of his inability to communicate.
Every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID, with dealing with everything we had to do with, if
examples like this made me start to think, they're not going to run him. Is it possible? Will they do a switcheroo? And that seems to be a lot of the conversation. I'll play some clips as well from CNN. They don't think this is going to work. They think they lost the election tonight if Joe Biden is on the ticket.
But that was not what we needed from Joe Biden, and it's personally painful for a lot of people. It's not just panic, it's pain of what was on there.
My next bullet point, Biden says, quote, every single thing he said is a lie, end quote, after Trump went for 2 minutes commenting on the 12-year-old killed by illegal immigrants and the fact that immigrants are being put up in hotels. Those things are just not lies. They're just not. I took a note when Biden called Trump a sucker and a loser. I said, I thought Trump handled it cleanly, asking Biden to apologize to him for it. I thought that was a good moment. Biden refused to apologize. He said, the idea that I would apologize, the idea that I would apologize, crazy. Next bullet point. While speaking, Biden seems to be looking left, off screen, quite often. Why? With him on the right side of the screen, it looks visually incorrect. See, Trump on the left side of the screen, looking left, made it look like he was looking toward the center, like he's engaged, like he's, it's kind of like, when I was in high school, for example, I was the editor-in-chief of our school magazine. The layout of the magazine was important. You didn't want to put pictures of people facing outward off the page. You wanted to put pictures of them inward toward the text so that it draws people onto the page so that they read what's there, so that it feels like it's all intentional. Biden looking off the screen, I think it's one of those things that people don't realize it in the moment, but subconsciously, it's making you think he's just kind of out of it. It's just a bad look. After I took that note, at the end of the debate, Biden's wife, Jill, helps walk him off the stage. Trump obviously walked himself off the stage. Biden apparently cannot do that. That made me think, okay, it clicked. Oh, maybe that whole time he was looking at Jill. That was a bad idea. He should have looked at the cameras or the moderators or toward Trump. That way he didn't look like he was looking in the wrong direction constantly. Next point. CNN asked Trump the same January 6th question twice. Trump told Biden, quote, you ought to be ashamed of yourself over the jailings of the January 6th protesters. I made a point thinking, it was odd. It was the first time CNN asked the same question twice, and I thought it was a little bit rude at first, or like they felt like he hadn't answered it, so they were going to be like, okay, we're going to make you answer this question by asking it to you again. They did the same thing to Biden later, which we'll get to, so I'm gonna let them off the hook for that. I actually think CNN did a very good job. One thing I wish they would have done better, behind the two candidates, instead of it being American flags or something patriotic or representative of our nation, it was just CNN logos everywhere. CNN, I don't care if you paid for the rights for it. I don't know how that all works. I don't care. It's not about you. We don't need your logo plastered everywhere. We get it. CNN's already in the bottom corner. We don't need it behind the candidates. It should have been the American flag. Next point. 44 minutes in, Biden calls Trump a convicted felon for the first time. Trump responds by saying, quote, his son is a convicted felon at a very high level. I thought it was a good, very Trumpian comedic way of saying, yeah, I'm a convicted felon, according to you, according to some. What's it mean when your son is dealing with the same thing? My next bullet point says, Trump says, quote, my poll numbers went up, way up. You know that because you're reporting it. Okay, so let me explain. After Biden said that Trump's morals are that of an alley cat, saying that they're very low, he has very low standards for himself. That's why he's dealing with some of the legal things he's dealing with this year. Trump said, quote, my poll numbers went up, way up. And then looked at the CNN moderators and said, you know that because you're reporting it. I thought it was a great moment because it was really kind of shoving it in their face and Biden's face, but all three of them at the same time, the two moderators and Biden. I'm ahead and you guys know it. And you know it because you're reporting it. Next bullet point. Trump says we shouldn't even be having a debate. There is no debate. Biden is the worst president in American history. That was my last bullet point before the first set of commercials. This is what I called sort of halftime. My first takeaway after commercial break returned was that CNN asked Biden the same question twice when asking what he would tell black people that aren't happy with his lack of progress for their communities. He didn't really answer it the first time. He had he had 2 minutes to answer it. He gave it about 40 seconds and didn't answer it. And then they were like, you've got 80 seconds left. You didn't answer the question. We'll ask it to you again. Bad look for Biden. Next point. At exactly 1 hour in, I pondered what in the hell Biden must have been doing the last week with 16 advisors preparing him for this instead of doing his actual job as president. He was doing so poorly, I was like, there's no way. I had the knowledge that he spent the last 7 days away from the White House specifically to prepare for this 90 minutes. And I thought maybe because of that, hey, maybe he'll perform okay. The State of the Union, it was odd because it was out of character for him, but it wasn't that bad, in my opinion. It didn't seem like the real Biden. But I thought if he gives another State of the Union level performance with 7 days preparation, maybe he'll survive this. It didn't seem like there was much preparation, or that a lot of it sunk in maybe, or he's just incapable of whatever they taught him over the last 7 days. He's incapable of executing on the instruction from the professionals in the field. I think it's as simple as that. Next bullet point. Trump was asked about his environmental goals. I wish he would state a goal instead of constantly saying that it was the best ever during his 4 years. My position is nothing is perfect, and at some point I think he'd gain points if he simply stated his goals for his next 4 years instead of reflecting on his first. What can I say? At a certain point, it was getting so lopsided that my brain switched to, let me seriously try to come up with a point for what I think Trump isn't doing so well since this debate's over. This debate was over before the second set of commercials, y'all. My next point. Trump said, quote, he can't hit a golf ball 50 yards. Biden then says his handicap was 6, and Trump says, I've seen your swing. I know your swing. Let's not act like children. My takeaway was, man, Biden fell completely for the bait. He fell completely for the debate bait. He played Trump's game, which you're definitely not going to win playing Trump's game. Here's a clip of what I'm talking about so you can see it for yourself.
I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6. But by the way, I told you before, I'm happy to play golf if you carry your own bag. Think you can do it?
That's the biggest lie. He's a 6 handicap of all.
I was at 8 handicap.
Yeah.
8.
Never.
But I had, how many?
I've seen you swing. I know you swing.
Let's
not act like children.
President Trump, we're going to
21
turn.
Let's not act like children.
That takes us to the second set of commercials chronologically. This is where I took the note. I had the knowledge beforehand that Trump won the coin toss that decided he was going to get the last word for the night. He was going to get to do his final 2 minutes after Biden did his. But I made the note. I'm noticing, I know Trump gets to go last, but Biden got to go last into both commercial breaks. Maybe there's some value to that. I would argue that there is value to that. My notes on the final closing statements. Man, Biden struggled harshly through this. I know I've said, a lot of my notes are that Biden struggled. I think he struggled, especially in his final 2 minutes. It was not good. It was not good. Trump finished fine, I thought. I wouldn't say wow, that was the best 2-minute dialogue I've ever gotten from Trump. It wasn't, but the final sentence was, we're going to make America great again. And that was an excellent way to sign off. It was almost matter of fact. I'm your next president. You know it. You know you're going to vote for me. You know it's going to, and this is what we're going to do. I watched a few opinion people post-debate as well to help me gather my thoughts. And I watched Ben Shapiro. Shapiro said the debates come down to moments. People only remember specific moments. And the moments that will be remembered this time will be Trump calling Biden out for having an incoherent sentence. I'll play that clip for you now.
The total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either.
And the other moment that Shapiro thinks will live on will be the whole golf handicap discussion that Trump pulled Biden into, which threw Biden off of anything he prepared for. I promise you, those 16 people in those 7 days Biden was preparing for this debate never thought that golf was going to be discussed for 30 seconds of the debate. Those were my live notes. I think it's also important to share there was an exchange where Biden claims the Border Patrol, was supportive of him, endorses him. Here's that clip.
By the way, the Border Patrol endorsed my position.
Not very long after that clip, the Border Patrol Union official Twitter account tweeted, quote, "To be clear, we never have and never will endorse Biden." Let's hear one more clip from CNN recapping the debate from the Democrat perspective.
This is a guy with a lot of pride and who believes in himself. And the idea that he's going to say, you know what, I had a bad debate, I think I'm going to walk away from this, I find it hard to believe.
So they are saying, hey, maybe what we want and a good idea would be for Biden to step down because that's the only way that he won't be the Democratic nominee. He has to make that decision. He has to be the one to humbly step out of the position. And that maybe he has too much pride to do that. That's one of the characteristics of his career. He's too prideful. I thought that was an interesting word for him to use. I've been saying it on this channel for quite a long time. Pride is not a virtue. It's interesting. The Democrats have gotten behind that word, pride. That's a very positive word in the overall approach of the Democrats. It's the word that the LGBTQ movement has coined as their own. And it's just funny that now they're in a situation where they're revealing, hey, pride in this scenario definitely not helping out because pride is what's getting in the way of Joe Biden doing the right thing for the party. I don't know how you can seriously go on TV and make that point when your whole party is built on pride being something that's positive. And so that, you guys know, my people on YouTube know, I don't even use the word pride anymore in my personal life. That's how against pride I am. I don't even use the word. And it really caught my attention tonight when he said Joe Biden has too much pride. That coming from the Democratic Party. I hope you found value in my recap. I think I've done a decent job of explaining the substance of what happened. I think what I can't do from my chair, other than showing you a few low light clips. What I can't do is communicate just how, Van Jones used the word painful. It was hard to watch at a certain point. I felt conflicted. Honestly, my feelings, let's leave the sort of harsh reality and venture into the world of my feelings for a second. Not that my feelings matter, but here are what my feelings were. I felt sad for Joe Biden, more sad than I ever have, easily. It was hard to watch at times. It got to the point where it felt like mercy rule, like the score was being run up, and not because Trump was being nasty, but just because Joe Biden just doesn't belong. I've heard people use the phrase elder abuse. It's elder abuse that Joe Biden's even being allowed to do this by people in his personal life that supposedly love him personally, allowing him to do it. Here's the thing though, he's still condescending to MAGA Republicans, Trump voters, conservatives. He's condescending, he's nasty, he's mean. He's certainly to Trump really mean. And just like, even the way he looked at Trump a couple times in the debate, it was just like, he felt like he was looking at scum. I know he looks down on Trump and people like me. And that's what kept me not feeling bad for him in a way, because it was like, he kind of deserves it to lose to Trump. Like, maybe one of the few people on earth that it would really bother Biden to lose to, he's going to have to lose to before his eventual death. Even with that said, it hurts to think that someone would spend their few final months or years of life doing that, like going through what he's going through right now. It's just not a pretty thing to watch. So if you didn't watch the debate, that's what will be hard for you to pick up just from my recap video, just how sort of the emotional penetration of the beatdown that was. Thank you all for watching my video. Obviously subscribe. I will be sharing more of my opinion through the process when Trump announces a VP, when the conventions actually happen, if and when Joe Biden steps down. Finally, in November, when it's time to vote, obviously I'll have videos in each circumstance if you'd like to subscribe and stick around for the channel to see them. I will see you next time on Welty.